sprints out. Looking. Stops. In trouble, and he gets decked at the 30-yard line. Wow. What a hit. And that's Perrion Winfrey. Here's Mertz. In the pocket, and he gets crushed. Wow. Daxton Hill shot out of a cannon. The reverse into the hands of Presley. Presley, the wide receiver, just got lit up. J.L. Skinner laying the wood.
All right. Hey, welcome to Devy IDP Grind. I'm Choppin. I'm joined tonight with the one and only Justice, Mr. Old Dominion. How's it going?
Good.
Good.
It's going well. Old Dominion lost this weekend, but, can't win them all.
No, I very well know that. You just like to win some, right? So,
yeah.
We're, we got the C team tonight, apparently. Going through.
Hollywood's got technical difficulties.
Yeah, he has a technical difficulty. Going through week 5 of the college football season's already blown past us,
So that's in your fantasy league. You're halfway done.
Yeah,
or halfway done with the regular season anyway.
Yeah. If you're keying in on the home, you're rounding third base, so to say, right?
Yep.
Well past second right now for sure. So, that's some got some interest. We got some news and notes we're going to go over, and then talk about some players and probably just do a recap of some of the things we saw over the last week and some of our C2C stuff and things we've seen. So I don't know. I should jump right into the news and notes unless you got something you want to add up on top here, Justice.
I'm good. Let's go.
All righty then. So first one is per CBS Sports, the Big 12 is preparing invites to Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State should the Big 10 bring in Cal, Stanford, Oregon, and Washington. So that would give the Big 12 16 members with the 4 new ones that are supposed to join next year season with UCF, Cincy, Houston, and BYU, of course. So
I was trying to think who that leaves out. That leaves out what? Oregon State,
Washington State, Oregon State to go play in the Mountain West Conference, I guess. I don't know.
Is that the only 2 that get left out?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny. I don't know maybe based on where they are and like what, having the Phoenix market, I suppose, has a lot to do with Arizona and Arizona State being one, included in any things because they're both shit programs for the most part.
They're just close. I think they're just closer to the Big 12 geographically, right?
Probably, like I said, and they're in the. Well, a lot of what they're doing right now with this conference alignment, they're looking for TV markets, right?
Yeah.
You get Phoenix, that's a big deal, and I think Colorado is probably only included because of Denver.
Just geographically, right?
Yeah.
And Denver. And
they're right there, but
you got Utah, you already got BYU, so you get all of Utah that way.
Well, then are you looking at some kind of, that'd bring them to 16 teams? Are you looking to some kind of 14 pod scheduling or something like that too, right? Where you do Utah, BYU, Colorado, and I don't know who gets stuck in that mess, with them. But I guess one of the Arizona schools maybe, or who knows, maybe they're going to add more too. So,
it sucks for Oregon State and Washington State though, because you're right. Where are they going to go? Mountain West is about all they have left. Yeah.
Which I don't think they're necessarily the most profitable conference to join or be a part of, or
because it just wouldn't make sense for them. Like the ACC, that makes 0 sense, right? Those 2 schools going all the way across country every week.
No, they don't. I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think Washington State and Oregon State bring enough eyes to them either, right? I think in a vacuum, and if you take the geography thing out of it, I'd rather probably have those 2 schools than any of Colorado, Arizona State.
Absolutely, right. Utah would be the only one you definitely would want over them.
Yeah, but where they are and has a lot to play in it. That's mean, be honest, Rutgers got invited to the Big Ten years ago just because it's the New York, New Jersey, and all that, right? I mean, that's the sole reason.
Same with Maryland, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the DC area.
So where you are matters too, and so who knows? So, moving on. All righty, 2023 5-star defensive lineman, number 1 overall at that position, 9 overall. David Hicks has committed to A&M. Believe he was previously committed to
Oklahoma, I think.
Oklahoma, and I think I read somewhere that even as soon as the day before, he told Oklahoma he was coming there. And
up till the night before,
Night before. So obviously he had a last-minute change of heart, probably in some monetary agreements. Maybe.
I was going to say a last-minute financial incentive.
Maybe Texas A&M's game against Mississippi State might change his mind, but Oklahoma's game, probably didn't help him any either there. So I don't know, but so I don't know. I mean, he's a big get for them. I mean, A&M keeps getting those defensive linemen right now, so that's 2 years in a row where they've.
He's a big dude too. He looks like he's already got the size, right?
Yeah, where they're kind of cleaning up at that positions too. So must be pretty athletic. He's a basketball player. I mean, I get throwing the shot and discus. That seems kind of par for the course for some of those defensive linemen and stuff. But pretty impressive playing basketball at that size. So obviously, he can probably move around fairly well, I would think.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 270. You think maybe he goes into play more interior lineman than edge?
I mean, it depends on how athletic. I mean, I don't know.
How athletic he is, right?
That I'm not familiar with, what's his wingspan and some of those other things that kind of go with it. I don't know if he's it's kind of hard to tell right now if he's a hand in the dirt kind of guy or can he play up on the outside a little bit. So
and I haven't watched any film on him, so I'm not sure.
So had a monster junior year though. 88 tackles, 22 tackles for a loss, 13 sacks, first team All-State. And that's a no slouch to be a first team All-State in Texas. So, and his old man, David Hicks, played linebacker in the NFL, the CFL, and the AFL, which I think
he played NFL. He played for your Chiefs.
He might have. I don't know.
And I want to say in the 2000s. I think he went to college at Grambling State, if I remember correctly.
You've got way more David Hicks knowledge than I do. I'll be honest.
It was when I was reading the article about him and it talked about his dad, that's what it said. So I don't think he played in the NFL very long, but I mentioned he played for the Chiefs.
Sorry, I'm reading a tweet from Hollywood. He's being mouthy. Clemson defensive tackle Brian Breesy missed the North Carolina State game this past weekend.
And I'm wondering if and I don't know this, and it's pure speculation on my part. I wonder if they actually had the actual funeral, maybe, because he played in the Wake Forest game, which was the immediately after his sister passed away. So I'm wondering if I couldn't find anything to verify that, and it's pure speculation on my part that maybe the actual funeral was this past
or
weekend.
they could have had some kind of remembrance or something like that. I mean, that guy should be given a grace period on whatever he needs to miss, over the next however long it takes, right? So, and
they did College Game Day did a special on him and his sister this past Saturday, which was pretty good. If you didn't get a chance to see it, see if you can catch it on ESPN Plus or something. But
Toledo safety Maxon Hook got injured on the opening kickoff and missed the rest of the game against Central Michigan. Additionally, defensive lineman Deshaun Johnson missed the second half of the game with injury. Don't know how serious either one of those are. I mean, those are two pretty good college IDP guys.
Yeah.
To just keep an eye on what their sad thing is.
We might not know, right?
Yeah, being Mac.
I mean, at least you can do a Twitter search or something.
Yeah,
and see.
I would say at least be in a Mac school, and I'd probably just pull them out of my lineup and see if they play a week, and then go forward from there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Fresno State safety Evan Williams and linebacker Raymond Scott are out again for this Saturday's matchup against Boise State. not season ending, but week to week. So I guess if you're depending on either one of those, Evan Williams is a pretty popular
Williams,
play, I know. So I think he'd be one to make sure you just kind of pull out of your lineups for this upcoming week for sure. Carl Durrell is out at head coach of Colorado, as is defensive coordinator Chris Wilson. Mike Sanford is named the interim head coach. He was offensive coordinator for Colorado that averaged 13 points a game. So
like that dude, man, he's failing and he got to upgrade, right?
Well,
he failed upwards.
I mean, he's not getting a pay bump. It's like, hey, you're going to take the reins of this thing, and I mean, Colorado, God, I mean, they almost like they're bad. You know, I don't know.
They are.
I don't know what's gone.
The whole state is Colorado
yeah.
State. They're both really bad.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I would think that the Denver area and Colorado Springs and all that, I think there'd be some decent high school talent there to recruit from. And God, man, how easy is it to get kids to want to go in the mountains and hang out and stuff. And so I don't know. Yeah. They're just bad. I mean, they've kind of had a fall from grace, and I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm kind of surprised that like the Big 12 or anybody covets them at this point. I mean, they're
the market, I guess.
I mean,
they're not good.
They're just a pile of shit program, for lack of a better term. So I don't know. I mean, someone will get that job, and I kind of feel sorry for them, I guess. I mean, so good luck.
Right.
With that. So Paul Kreis is out as the head coach of Wisconsin, kind of a shocker.
Yeah, that is a shocker because I mean, he seems like all he does is win 9 games a year.
I was say, I don't think he's ever had a losing season. And are they 2-2 this year?
Something like that. Yeah. I think he did have one losing season, but I think in the short COVID. Besides, I think that was a short COVID year,
right? So Jim Leonhard has been named the interim head coach. He was their D coordinator there. I've read some things where he's, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Leonhard, Leonard, however you say it. He's very popular at the, played there, went on the NFL, and kind of they felt their coaching waiting. I wonder with just some jobs opening up and his name coming up in as a possibility at, different schools, if Wisconsin didn't just say, well, we'd rather just make the move now and just make him our guy.
Yeah. It just strikes me as odd. Right. I mean,
we haven't really heard anything that he's on the, that, he's on a hot seat or even any possibility of that happening. I mean, nothing surprised me, but like, man, just.
I mean, they looked. Wisconsin's always been able to run the ball, right? Except for last week, it's like they couldn't run the ball, and so it just,
I guess that's what maybe a loss to Illinois does to a coach.
And it wasn't even it was like a bad loss. Like, it was like 30-something to 3 or something.
They got straight up curb stomped, So, multiple SMU players are sitting out the remainder of the season to preserve their year of eligibility. Safeties Chase Cromartie and Isaiah. You just put hot names in this shit for reasons, don't you?
Nwokobia.
Sure.
Those are the other two guys they mentioned are both wide receivers.
Yeah, and those were high recruits. I know they had a pretty highly recruited receiver from
Roderick Daniels.
Yeah, was probably the biggest name, I think, out of the bunch on there. I think you're going to see that at more schools now, though, too. I mean, the 4-game thing is hitting people, right? Where they're
right. With their game getting canceled last week, now their 4th game is on Wednesday.
Yeah, so
or their
I think
5th game, I guess, is Wednesday.
I think in some schools, I mean, you're going to have like the coaches are going to make those decisions for players that, hey, if you play your 4 games now, we're just gonna chill you the rest of the year, and we'll come back in 2023, and this is our role for you. Or if you're someone that wants to transfer and keep a year, you have to look at that too. So I think you'll see both sides of it here here coming up, so and last but not least, Wednesday night we got some football. Central Florida versus SMU due to Hurricane Ian will be played, and so that's gonna be a fun game. I think you got two.
Two relatively good offenses.
Yeah, so. It'll be an up and down.
It should be. I think it's going to end up being a shootout.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, just remember that's Wednesday night, and we're getting closer here, probably pretty soon to sneaking into some action on Wednesday nights too. I would think so.
I think that starts like November, maybe.
I don't know.
It can't be too October.
Far. I don't know. It can't be too far down the road, I would think. So.
Well, Tuesday night, I think starts in November.
Is it? Okay. So
now Wednesday probably starts earlier.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be something to watch. I mean, there ain't a whole heck of a lot else to do on Wednesday nights anymore. So you can enjoy a UCF versus SMU game without some safeties that decided to sit out.
Start your Plumleys and your Mordecais and Rices.
Rice.
That's right.
So, all right. So we got our players of the week here. I'll do you didn't put them in the good order. You should have put like Hollywood and then you and then me and then you. So then I don't have to talk all the time, but whatever.
That's all right. Well, you can skip it. I'll go in between you and Hollywood.
All right. Players of the week. So Hollywood picked a cornerback. Clark Phillips III for Utah. 3 tackles, 1 solo, 3 picks, 1 returned for a touchdown. So, that guy's, he's a Devy radar guy for sure. And had a great game against Oregon State the other night. So, or other day. So that was Hollywood's player of the week. So who do you got, Justice?
So my player of the week was linebacker Ayinde Ile from Georgia Tech. They played Pittsburgh. They won 26-21. He had 14 total tackles, 8 solos, 1 sack, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. And the guy is quite, from a statistical standpoint, is having a great year.
Yeah, he is having a good season down there for about the only thing good maybe going on at Georgia Tech this year.
Him and Charlie Thomas both are having pretty good years.
So we didn't mention that, and coach is firing. Their coach got shit canned too, didn't he?
Yes.
So, and their AD.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week. I think.
No, I wasn't there last week because I was doing something. I don't know what, but sure it was important. I got mine was defensive end Felix. God, I hate this last name. Anaduki Uzoma from Kansas State. 6 tackles, 5 solo, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. That guy just, man, he could take over a game like few edge guys can in college football right now. So him and Wilson on the other side are both fantastic players, and I think guys that keep an eye on for the NFL for sure.
Yeah, he should be a high draft pick coming up.
And you can do our consensus. I guess we had a consensus.
So we did have a consensus one this week. Hollywood was a little late with his pick, so we had another one that we thought was deserving. It was defensive end Jadrian Taylor from University of Texas El Paso versus Charlotte. They won that game 41-35. He had 4 total tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and a 100-yard fat guy touchdown. You gotta love the when those big linemen get a touchdown.
That's right.
He ran it 100 yards. If you go to ESPN, you can watch the video. He actually ran it more than 100 yards because the Charlotte guy fumbled it into the end zone. Taylor picked it up in the end zone and ran it all the way back. So he probably ran it like 101, 102 yards technically. But yeah, it's pretty awesome when you get the fat guy touchdowns.
Oh yeah, you gotta pay those guys give them some rewards when they do that stuff. So looks like you got some stuff coming up here, some power rankings and things that you're covering here.
Yeah, so we started last week doing the power ranks for the listener league. And thanks for that spreadsheet. People ask me about it, and I'm like, "Oh, Choppy can explain it better than me." But It looks at like I think your wins, your total points scored, your high points, your high weekly score, your lowest weekly score, your average, number of games played. It looks at all those things and it comes up with a power ranking score. And do you know what a perfect score is in that system? I don't know. Do you?
No, I don't know if there is such a thing
Such a
because
thing.
because it doesn't like it only compares you to like or your team to the scores that you've had against the teams that you've played. I don't think it really like compares to the rest of the league. I mean, it probably could, but I'm not that smart in Google Sheets. I was barely smart enough to do this. I actually stole this and like I kind of tweaked it some to I think reward wins more and try to minimize the impacts of some of those other things. But I know high score, low score plays into it, and your average weekly
Your
score,
average and then
or
your
your
total
points,
score.
or
Yep,
whatever you want
total
to say,
points.
and things like that. So I don't know, and I don't think there's a perfect score because it always kind of goes up
Just
from week
keeps
to week.
going higher.
Yeah. So
I remain first and from last week with a score of 299.82. Choppy's right behind me. And second, 287.44. Third place is UMass FM Banterman, 271.99. Fourth place is Cincinnati, which is Dwight Peebles from C2C, 248.3. Fifth place, moving up a spot, is Dougie, Florida State. Dougie has 240.3 points. Dropping a spot was Penn, T-Dubs 14. He dropped from 5th to 6th, 218.83 points. 7 points. Seventh place is Pittsburgh, which is Austin from C2C with 198.98. Eighth place, moving up a spot, is Type Hollywood, Tennessee, Hollywood's team. He moved up a spot and his score is 191.9. Dropping a spot was Colin Decker from C2C in Penn State, 184.79. 10th place is Mr. Big Time, Kyle, Michigan, go blue, 161.41. Moving up a spot, Texas A&M Noob Fantasies in 11th, 145.88. Dropping a spot is Daffod and Tulane, 144.9. Staying at 13 is Syracuse, Jay Haggart, 125.59. And then moving up a spot is Miami, Canuck 49er, who I know is a listener to the show. He's moved up to 14th. He actually got his first win this week, 100.27. Dropping a spot is Connor 10, dropping to 15th at 94.02. And Washington, Barry Baker is in 16th with 72.43 points.
So is that Connor 10 or Con Norton? Or
I don't know. I always say Connor 10.
I'm going with Con Norton. I like that better. So Con Norton.
So, I mean, it doesn't really, we don't use this ranking for anything, but it's just kind of cool to show and compare the teams. Maybe in the future we can use it for something. I don't know what, but
and I don't like, me personally is that, like I said, I found one online and I tweaked it a bunch to like get something that I thought kind of worked. Just to have some fun with. I don't know if I feel, I mean, it's no difference. MFL has a power pull on there and I think it's kind of nice and neat, but I don't know, I'll be honest, at the end of the day, like the best fantasy team is the one that scores the most points. Like to me,
absolutely right.
Wins and losses. I don't say they don't mean anything, but like if I have
the
highest
best fantasy team is the one scoring the most points.
Yeah, if I have the highest scoring team, generally you're going to be okay in terms of your team standings and stuff. I think it's just kind of fun to look at and have some fun with it. And I still don't know how you're like ahead of me, but whatever.
It's points. It's my points are higher than yours. That's
I still think you're taking players off my thing, and I'm just not checking. So I'm gonna have to go to a judge. Who's the judge? Hollywood's not in this, so he can be the judge and determine what's truth and not. So, but no, I think, like I said, it's just kind of for fun, and I use it in one of my campus to Canton leagues, and I've probably this week here, I'll start using it in one of my in our college dynasty league too, just to, get some people talking about stuff rather than all the boredom that goes on sometimes. So
yeah, no, it's cool, right?
What do we got next on this thing?
Different.
What are we doing here? We got
next is
you get an
fantasy
IDP corner.
Yeah.
Last time I was here, it wasn't called an IDP corner. Now I just feel like I'm out of the freaking loop. All right. Go on.
All right. So the fantasy IDP corner for week 5. So here we're going to go through all the leagues, the IDP leagues we're in, talk about the top scorers for each of those leagues, and then who some of the top scorers are, just kind of overall. So the first league we'll talk about is the Devy IDP Grind C2C Listener League. It's a 16-team league, and these were the top players that were started at their positions. This league is a little different because we start DNs, D tackles, linebackers, safeties, and corners. So you're going to hear this name, I think, for every single league. The top defensive end, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Kansas State. In this league, Tennessee, Hollywood owns him, 26 points. The top defensive tackle, Tyree Wilson, Texas Tech, owned by Choppy there with 25 points. Top linebacker, Ayinde Ile. You're going to hear his name a lot. Georgia Tech, owned by Cincinnati and Dwight Peebles, 30.5 points. The top safety was Kalen Bullock from USC, owned by Miami and Canuck 49er at 23.2 points. And the top cornerback, Clark Phillips, Utah, Connor 10, 33.4 points.
Con Norton. Say it right.
Con Norton. All right. And for finally, someone different besides me and Choppy, the top IDP weekly score belongs to Seminoles, which is our buddy Dougie, with 222.2 points. And it's actually the highest weekly total for an IDP so far.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yes. It's the high totals have been around 200 every week. So he kind of this week, I think he beat everybody by like 60. He killed us in IDP this week. Now onto the season totals. I nudged out Choppy this week. So I got the lead in the season total there with 891.1 points. Choppy is in second. He's only 11 points behind me. And then Hollywood is in sixth, 232.6 points behind me. Next is Campus Canton, which Choppy commissions. It's a 20-team league. We start defensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive backs. The top defensive lineman, once again, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Kansas State, owned by Choppy, 26 points. Top linebacker, once again, Ayinde Ile, Georgia Tech, that I own, with 30.5 points. And a new name for you. The top defensive back was Tasia Young, Florida Atlantic, owned by Wolverines, at 35.4 points. The top IDP team score for this week was my team with 167 points. The top IDP season total, however, is Choppy with 634 points. I am in second place, 40.7 points behind him. And Hollywood is in 14th place, 196.5 points behind him.
14th place?
14th place out of 20.
Wow.
Next is Legends, also a league commissioned by Choppy. That's 16 teams. Once again, the top defensive lineman is Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Kansas State, owned by Minnesota State, which is Choppy, 26 points. Top linebacker, once again, Ayinde Ile, Georgia Tech, that's owned by South Park Cows, which is my team, 30.5 points. And the top defensive back, Clark Phillips from Utah, owned by the BMS Goats, 27.7 points. And the top IDP team week 5 score belongs to the Minnesota State Screaming Eagles, which is Choppy's team, with 165 points. And once again, in the top, the team season total is our buddy Choppy, Minnesota State, with 672.6 points. I am in second place, 9.9 points behind Chop. And Hollywood is in 7th 201.5 points behind Choppy. This next league is one that I'm the only one of us three that's in this league. It's a league that's mostly C2C guys and subscribers to C2C website. It's a 2014 league. The top defensive lineman, once again, Felix Anduke Uzoma, owned by DuckTales Brandon, 32 points. Top linebacker, Allende Ile, owned by Phineas and Ferb, Sal Cusimano. Shout out to Sal. He's also a listener to our podcast with 33.5 points. The top defensive back, here's a different name, RJ Hubert, Utah, owned by the Avengers and Darien with 31 points. The top IDP team, week 5 score was my team, Captain Caveman, with 176.6 points. And with that big week this week in IDP score, my team moved up from 3rd to 1st in the IDP team season total, leading that with 686.6 points. Now looking at the top IDP scores for week 5, regardless of whether they're owned or unowned, and I believe 2 of them, the defensive lineman and the defensive back, they're free agents in all my leagues. The top defensive lineman was Khalid Duke from Kansas State with 28 points. The top linebacker, Allende Ile, Georgia Tech, 30.5 points. And the top defensive back was Tejada Ridge from North Texas with 42.8 points. And looking for the season overall, through week 5, the top defensive lineman once again is Jalen Allen from Memphis, 67 points. He is rostered in 31% of Fantrax IDP leagues. Now, linebacker, we have a tie for linebacker. It's Jackson Mitchell from Connecticut, who's rostered in only 20% of the leagues, which seems ridiculously low to me because he's been number 1 all season long. And then he's tied with Ivan Pace from Cincinnati, who's rostered in 68% of the leagues, and they both score 110 points on the season so far. And the top defensive back is Quindell Johnson from Memphis with 76 points, and he is rostered in 38% of the leagues. I'm shocked that Mitchell's only owned in 20% of IDP leagues. That just seems like ridiculously low to me.
Well, I think the thing you have to consider about Fantrax, though, too, is some of that's like those aren't all college fantasy season teams, too, right? Because I think you can – isn't there some like – I think some of them that just use Fantrax to track like their players they have in Devy leagues and stuff. And,
they could, but just look like you compare them to Ivan Pace. Ivan Pace is 68%.
Well, and then and the fact that,
and like you look, Will Anderson was like 98%, right?
Well, and the fact that it doesn't show anything, as far as
right
who scored what, and I mean, I don't think Jackson Mitchell has a ton of sacks that would probably accumulate on there.
No, he's a tackling machine.
Tracking that, because I think Pace has like 6.5 sacks, I think, or 5.5 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
Pace has a lot more extras.
And so if they're looking at those scores and that's what your league is tracking, I think that's who you're going to pick up, right? So
yeah. So if you're interested in seeing IDP season scores, whether they be defensive linemen, linebackers, DBs, the information is posted on the Campus to Canton website every week. In addition to the points and the player statistics, I also give you their 24/7 stars and their recruiting class. So, I get comments every week where people say how useful it is to help them pick up free agents in their leagues, because, like Choppy mentioned, Fantrax does not track everything. So that kind of takes care of the fantasy stuff. I think we're on to week 5 observations.
Well, that takes care of the IDP corner.
Yeah.
Sounds so official. The IDP corner. It's like, I imagine, like, you have a rocking chair and you write that up or something? You just don't even know.
Just like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or something?
You miss 1 week and this is what you get. Yeah. Get Justice in a cardigan and give us a fucking IDP corner.
I think also the week before you had technical difficulties and you ended up leaving early. And
yeah, but it was like
we hadn't gotten this far yet, maybe, because we've done this for a couple weeks now.
No, it was. Well, I probably did have technical difficulties because shit happens to the best of us. So, what do you got to stand up to you from week 5? Anything you want to like just talk off the top of your head? If not, I can throw out a few things. I think.
I mean, once again, ODU had a home game, so I didn't get to watch a lot of football on Saturday.
Yeah,
most of what I watched was, earlier in Friday night, or I didn't watch the one Sunday game.
yeah.
I did watch some of the Saturday night game, the Arizona game. Arizona looked good.
Yeah, well, yeah, they did. I mean, they've got Delora has kind of found a home there, I think, which I guess if you're a Delora fan is good to see, I think for me, one of the things that kind of stood out was that Alabama-Arkansas game. Drew Sanders, man, that kid's legit.
Yeah, he's gonna be
yeah.
He's playing himself into be a high draft pick.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, right? Alabama's so good. He had a tough time getting on the field, but he's kind of he's kind of like who knows, but he's kind of like maybe a Leo Chanel or something like that, right? Where I think I don't necessarily know if he's like a first round pick or anything crazy. I mean, I hate to put that on everybody. There's only 32 of those in the world, but kind of went from like a relative unknown, but man, he's playing he's playing lights out this year so far. And I'm gonna go back to my player of the week, but man, Felix at K-State, that kid's just good. So, I mean, I don't know when he's coming out or where, I think he's a redshirt sophomore, so I know he could technically come out this year.
I would think he comes out this year, but because he's got to be a first round pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in that game there with him and Tyree Wilson to both, I mean, just two really, and they're the bigger, lengthier guys that the NFL kind of likes right now, I think too, so.
Tyree's having a good year.
Yeah, Tyree's he's a heck of a player, I think. I think he's he's kind of very similar to oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on the name? The guy their eggs pick number 1 overall.
In his last draft?
Yeah.
Walker?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's got a skill set kind of similar to that, So I'm not saying he's going 1 overall, but I think similar player. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he could sneak into the first round either.
First round.
So, yeah.
He's playing well this year, so.
Yeah, he is. I think I think the fun thing about now, like when you're looking at games and you're following things, is that you're getting into conference play, right? And things really get crazy in college football when you get into conference play. So I think that's always interesting and fun and and enjoyable. And I just can't. It's always exciting to see how it plays out from here on out because. As much as everybody says that, you've got your Alabama and your Georgia and Ohio State, but beyond that, there is so much parity in college football.
Well, and Georgia hasn't looked great the last 2 weeks, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're college football.
I mean, they were losing that Missouri game till like the last 5 minutes or so.
And that might just be their wake up call. I mean, most teams every year you go back and look, every team has one of those, right?
Yeah.
So Alabama probably hasn't had theirs yet. And
I mean, maybe Texas, maybe.
Yeah, it was a tough game. Texas is crap. I mean, I think I sent you guys that thing where the Big 12 this week features every game features a ranked team except for the
Texas Oklahoma game.
Yeah, except for the Red River Shootout. So
well, I think Texas would be ranked if Ewers hadn't got hurt in that game because they would have beat Alabama.
And he was playing well, so. I mean, I think that's.
And then you had that safety that didn't get called. That was a safety.
Yeah, I think that's very possible that could happen. So,
there have been some really bad calls, man. I mean, like that call, and then I was at the game. So, but at the ODU game, ODU sacked Jonathan Bennett, and the ball landed easily 2 yards past where he threw it, but it went out of bounds 20 yards past. And and they just called it incomplete. I'm like, it's either a fumble or it's a backwards pass.
Yeah.
And they reviewed it and still fucked it up. I'm like, how do you do that, right? You watch the replays and you can clearly see the ball land 2 yards back from where he was standing when he quote threw it.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And then that's safety. Bryce Young, that was a safety. The ball never even made it out of the end zone.
Yeah. Well, you see, in all sports, you see it.
It just baffles me, with replay, that some of these calls, these really, really bad calls, don't get overturned. But
I think the problem is that how much can you replay, right? Like, do you have to put a limit on it? Otherwise, are you replaying every play?
Right.
And maybe you could, you could have the eye in the sky that could sit up there.
You can't. It's not realistic to replay every play, but still,
and so,
the two I'm talking about, they replayed them and still got them wrong.
Yeah. I don't know if it's always ideal or not. So,
I did see some of the Washington UCLA game Friday night, and DTR looked really well. He looked good. Penix didn't look so great.
Yeah. Well, and UCLA is undefeated, right? Are they 5-0? I think.
Yeah.
Are both them and USC 5-0 or undefeated?
Yeah. Yes.
USC might be 4-0, maybe. And so, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they're both 5-0.
Are they both 5-0? And so that's.
But I think UCLA's played Washington's probably the toughest game they played, but I don't know that USC's played anybody tougher than Washington.
No, I think that. I don't know what to think of either one of those teams. There's a lot of, UCLA wasn't great last year, and USC, that's so much change. You never know how that's is that gonna work out positively or negatively? You never really know, right? So, I think, I guess for the Pac-12, that's exciting to see. It's probably a bummer to see for the. That's not a touchdown for Kittle if you're watching the game. If them going to the Big 12 and or the Big 10 and leaving them high and dry, maybe might be the only two relevant programs in there. It looks like at the end of the day, who knows?
Yeah.
I think Mississippi State. I was talking to Hollywood the other day, and I told him that's a game. We're kind of going through Texas A&M and what their record could look like, and and I'm like, man, they got losses on there, and I flat out said Mississippi State could be a loss. That's a on the road veteran quarterback in the SEC. That's not a gimme at all. So
yeah,
they kind of beat the hell out of A&M. Looks like so, but they're I think they're 4-1 now. A&M, you see all this shit about they want to fire their coach, but what's his buyout, like $100 million almost? I think.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, A&M's 3-2, Mississippi State's 4-1.
Mississippi State's 4-1, and I know they had to slip up against somebody. And yeah, the other big games that we had, Mississippi beat Kentucky.
I think Mississippi State lost to LSU.
Okay, that's right, they did. Yeah. Mississippi State and Kentucky, those are two unbeatens. And or not Mississippi State, Mississippi.
Kentucky, Ole Miss.
Yeah, and that was a close game that Ole Miss wound up pulling out.
And then NC State Clemson was a battle of two top 10 teams, and
Clemson won that.
Clemson won them, and DJU actually looked decent for another week, right?
Yeah, you gotta. As much shit as that guy got last year for how he played as a first-year starter, you gotta take your hat off him from this year how he's playing, right?
Yeah, especially the last two games, he's played well.
Yeah, I think he's played pretty well all season long. So, and Clemson's got a nasty defense,
yes.
And they got I think if they keep things simple for DJU and realize that what they have in Shipley and Pace and the other kid at running back, and smartly use their offense around that, I think he'll be fine. I think they can win. And you look at their schedule, I don't see anybody beating Clemson the rest of the season. I mean, they're undefeated.
I mean, yeah, NC State didn't do it. I don't know who's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're going. An undefeated Clemson is going to be in the college football playoff, right?
Yeah,
doesn't matter what anybody else does because I mean
they have Syracuse, but NC State's better than Syracuse.
Yeah, they'll beat the hell out of Syracuse, I think. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
maybe not the hell, but yeah, I think they're looking at especially when you look at like what Ohio State and Michigan have to play yet. The Alabama and Georgia play each other, or would that be in the SEC?
I think that's only the SEC championship.
Okay, but that's still they're going to play, right? So,
yeah, they don't play in the regular season.
I mean, Clemson, where they're sitting now, undefeated, they'll get in over a one loss any of those top teams above them, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think they're in a really good position for, what things are going to be at the end. So, you got any games you're looking forward to
coming up?
We talked about SMU, UCF this week, but anything else that
the SMU UCF from a fantasy standpoint excites me, right? Lots of points.
Yeah. Tennessee, Louisiana State. That's a big test on the road for Tennessee.
TCU, Kansas.
I think ESPN Game Day is in frickin' Lawrence this weekend.
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is. Which is weird because that's not even an ESPN game. That's a Fox Sports game.
Yeah. But I think it's like 40 miles down the road. I think I don't work Saturday. Maybe I should go check out Game Day down there at if Hollywood buys me a ticket to the game, I'll go check it out.
Utah, UCLA.
Yeah,
should be a good one.
That should be a good one. That's about it. I mean, if you look at like ranked and unranked and stuff like that, there's not a Kansas State, Iowa State could probably be a good game. That'd be a fun one. I mean, those are two
Washington State plays USC.
Yeah. See with
that's probably the best team that USC's played.
Yeah, USC's up to 6, huh?
Texas A&M plays Alabama. Alabama.
Oh, that is this. Okay. Well, maybe this is what Jimbo's been playing for all off season, right?
Yeah. And you get the battle of two of the worst teams in FBS, Connecticut and Florida International.
Oh, that'll be painful to watch.
Yes, it would. And then you have Nevada and Colorado State playing too. Those probably are the two worst teams.
Well, that's like the normal bowl there. That's the shit he left and the shit he took.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a hot mess.
You're absolutely right.
Hot mess everywhere. Right. I think Notre Dame, BYU. That could be a good game. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame comes out of that one on top.
Yeah.
Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, the Red River Shootout's always.
It's always a good game. Hopefully, hopefully Gabriel plays, right? Hopefully you get to see Gabriel versus Ewers.
Man, I don't know. He got smacked on that hit.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw it, but
I did not. I didn't see it.
I'm not saying he can't, but like he got hit pretty well, and I mean, I know they got their protocols they go through and stuff like that, but I mean, being someone that's had a concussion in my life, I don't know how you get up from something like that and get ready for a football game a week later.
Well, and not to change the subject to the NFL, but all that stuff with Tua, right? Like
teams got to be more. I think everybody's aware of that.
And the thing with Tua is, I saw ESPN reporting on Friday that, he had an MRI and, there's nothing structurally wrong with his brain. Well, an MRI, I don't know. You can do MRIs that will show you things that result from a concussion, right? But those are special kinds of MRIs and a special kind of analysis. Just a generic general MRI is not going to show you a problem. The other thing is, with the concussions and brain injuries, your brain can structurally look fine, but it doesn't mean it's functioning fine.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I was getting really irritated, like that ESPN kept saying that over and over. Well, his brain structurally looks fine. Okay, well, it can look fine, but it can be mush. I mean, for lack of a better word, it doesn't mean that it's functioning fine. And if when you have back-to-back concussions like he did, there's gonna be some brain damage. It just is. It just
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that the NFL and college football and hopefully high school and junior high and pee wee and everybody, if someone's actually diagnosed with a concussion, I mean, they almost need to stop with the grade, the grading scale on or whatever like that, and just say, I mean, you had a concussion, you just need to sit out
yep.
30 days or whatever. I mean, you think about like Ultimate Fighting, right? And
because that thing with his hands, that was like he could have died.
yeah. Well, like I said, you go back to Ultimate Fighting. If he would have been in the UFC and that would have happened to him and he would have reacted that way, I believe they have it where that guy's not allowed to train or do anything for like, I want to say 30 days after that happens.
That's not good.
And then has to work his way. They work their way back into shape after that, right? And so, is that something that they should consider? Like, when something like that happened with a guy like Tua or Dylan Gabriel, I mean, they don't, and I don't want to see, you hate seeing good players miss games and stuff like that, but do they need? Is it better if it's better for them and their quality of life that
then that's what they need to do, right?
They need to not play for they don't do anything for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they spend 2 weeks getting back in shape and they come in and play. I don't know, right?
You saw it with Keelan Stokes, right? I don't know if you saw that play 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he very very Tua-like, right? As far as the wobbly, and he was back out there playing this past week.
Yeah, and is that is that smart? But and then also at the end of the day, it's Tua's life and it's Keelan Stokes' life, and
but sometimes you got to protect the player from themselves because they want to play, right?
No, I understand that, but like if your doctor says that you're over your concussion symptoms or whatever, I mean, why should they not have that ability to say, okay, I know what the concern is over the long-term effects of anything, but I want to go out and play on Saturday or Sunday or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying they should, but I don't know if if the player's input should matter some too. I don't think it should just be like, well, you're done or whatever. I think
the Tua thing, like to me, the most troubling part was the fact they went back in that game last week.
Yeah, that was kind of messed up, and they said it was a back thing, and now there's all kinds of stuff coming out with the independent neurologist or whatever on the side. So who knows?
Well, I mean, and the sad thing, and I hate to say this, but I don't know that you're ever going to know the truth, right? Now, someone's going to like it's already happened. Now, maybe it is true. Maybe this is all his fault. But the cynical side of me thinks, well, this guy's being made a scapegoat, right? He was doing what someone else told him to, or I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know that he's ultimately the one to blame, but he's the one getting the blame.
Well,
and he is independent, so that does remove some of my skepticism. But
and I think the thing you have is that you have. I don't think that doctor would willingly put a player out there knowing that they were at further risk.
You wouldn't think so.
But I think the problem is, and the NFL doesn't want to admit this, is that their protocol and their assessments are so lax that it makes it possible for that to happen. And so
exactly. Yes.
I think that guy there, as far as someone needed to be to blame. And so he was like the easy one. And so we're like, well, we'll say we removed him, for whatever reason. And maybe we're going to change things and tighten them up going forward, where there's a situation like that, okay, you get hit, you get up and you're wobbly, whether it's your back or your neck or your head, who gives a fuck? Why are you need to take a minute.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe you feel fine later, but it's like, nah, the way you react to that, let's just not put you back in and see what happens, So I don't know, but
and like just from my own personal experience with brain injuries, what kind of doctor or what type of doctor you see matters. Like
yeah,
for instance, a neurosurgeon, he's gonna do an MRI of your brain and say there's nothing wrong. Well,
yeah,
what he truly means is there isn't anything wrong that I can fix. Because you can't do surgery and fix a concussion.
I know that when I was I want to say at 8th grade, I think I got a concussion in our PE class, and I was also doing junior high football, and I went home and whatever. My parents took me to the doctor later on. They was like, no, he's got a concussion. They told me I couldn't do anything for 14 days. They said, you can't do. We don't want you doing recess. We don't want you doing PE. You're not going to do anything for football. You got 14 days where you just need to do nothing. Come back and see us and we'll see how you feel. And that's what so that was what my family doctor told me. And this was back in 1990, 91. I don't know, when I was 14, 89. Fuck shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so like, maybe just the common sense approach is the best approach, right? So
no, you're right. I mean, I have friends, daughters who play volleyball, like took a spike off the head, and you're right, they're out for like a minimum of 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so
sometimes up to 30 days.
I mean, do I want to watch an NFL game where Blaine Gabbert is quarterbacking against freaking Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's coming out of retirement because nobody else is healthy? Maybe not necessarily, but do I also, like seeing guys that, I mean, Troy Aikman retired when he was 33 or 34 because of concussions. You've had, you'll have guys that, I mean, honestly, Tua gets a couple more in his career's going to be over.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so is it smarter to give them the rest they need? And then maybe you can add to their career and who cares at the end of the day? I mean, it just make their life better, but so I don't know. It's just, it's another thing. The NFL, like, I guess if that's the topic we're on, NFL just makes a mess on a lot of shit. And this just adds to the things that they
do.
Right. I mean, as far as as big of a business as it is, they just don't have their stuff together on a lot of things. And this is just another
example.
So that's our week 5. I guess we're going to stop talking about concussions in the NFL and watch the Will Smith movie.
That's right.
What was it called? It was about concussions.
Oh gosh, I can't think. I don't remember. I watched the movie, but I can't think of the name of it.
Wasn't it called Concussion? I don't know. That's what I would have called it.
No,
I would have called it The Lawyer Who Chased the NFL for Concussions. No, that's not it. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Is the name of it Concussion?
That makes sense.
I think the name of it is Concussion.
It's been a minute since I've seen it, so I don't know. But it's pretty
yeah, it's the name of the movie, Concussion.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's pretty informative, right? As far as that and some of the things that league's done in the past, and to think that because they have an independent neurologist on the sideline, are they doing the right things now? Who knows, right? So what do we got next? We got some listener questions.
Questions, yeah.
So we got Sal
Cusimano.
I just call him Sal. My buddy Sal.
Sal. He's a listener to the podcast. He's also a Patreon subscriber to Hollywood's Patreon. He's also a member of the Campus Canton website too.
All right. So his question is: how do you decide which players to start? What is the thought process when looking at their matchups?
You want me to go first?
Sure. Go for it.
So when I'm looking at who I'm going to start, first kind of thing I'm looking at is who I think can get the most tackles. Tackles is the most, I think, predictable, or maybe not most predictable, maybe most consistent stat. So I'm going to start my highest tackle guys. unless their matchup is just terrible. If I don't really look at matchups too much unless I feel like guys are close. If I feel like guys are close in terms of what they're going to produce this week, then I will look at the matchups. And obviously for linebackers, if one team's playing a very run-happy team, or Navy or Army, Air Force, or Northern Illinois, somebody that runs the ball a lot, I'm going to lean that way because that would generally mean more tackles for the linebacker. Conversely, if my defensive backs are playing a pass-happy team, I might lean that way unless I have an in-the-box safety, and then you're going to look at the run, the running options. But I don't really look at matchups too much unless I feel like players are close, and then I will. Defensive linemen, it can work either way, right? Run heavy team, they can get a lot of tackles. Pass heavy teams, a lot of sacks. So, but I would say I will generally look at tackles first, and then decide who I'm going to start.
I do a little bit different. I would imagine. I actually do look at the matchup, and I look for a competitive game with players. I think that's like the biggest factor because you see.
Yeah, if they're playing an FCS team, right? They're probably not a good start because
they're
not going to play that often.
Even if it looks like it's going to be a blowout,
right? They're playing Florida International or Connecticut.
Yeah, so I mean, you want your guy out there for as many plays as possible. Yeah. To start with, and I think, some of it's probably similar, but you want to know what those teams do, are they more of a running team or a throwing team? Because that's part of it. You also want to, I think you want to look at like what the, you want to look at like, one of the things I like checking now is you can find it on College Football Reference is number of plays a team runs, and just get an idea of that too. Because I mean, some teams, especially now, I mean, like you got teams that go out there and they want to try to run 70, 80, 90 plays a game. Yeah. So when you're doing that, I mean, they're not going to score on every one of those plays. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So.
And that's the name of the game for IDP, right? The more opportunity, the better.
Yeah. So I don't know if position breakdown and stuff like that. I mean, I look at linebacker always seems like it's key, but I think that defensive linemen that if you got a good edge rusher, you want to make sure that, like you said, they're not playing against an Army or Air Force or something like that. They're going to actually get a chance to, to sack the quarterback. Because that's kind of what they're dependent on, I think. So I just, I think the key, the biggest thing is that, and then I think one of the biggest things too is also doing yourself some due diligence and checking and seeing what that player, if that player's had some productivity over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
There's just so much unknown around injuries and some other stuff that, realistically, if a guy hasn't put up anything worthwhile, then move on to the next guy rather than just assuming that they're doing okay, I guess. So
right. Like you said, you got to do your homework.
Yeah.
Look at their stats and are they trending up, trending down? Are they very up and down?
Well, and I think depending on the position, I think you can see steady from your linebackers, but I think defensive linemen and defensive backs.
Defensive linemen are I feel like are the most variable.
Yeah, well, I think defensive backs are too, unless you got yourself a true box safety or something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but
I tend when I get defensive backs, I tend to get the high tackle guys. So
yeah,
kind of eliminates that a little
bit.
But
it stinks though too, because like in our dig league where you have to start corners, I mean, technically you can go out and you're finding yourself a freaking box safety that you're playing at corner because their positional status sucks. It's not.
Yeah.
What was that, Stafford? Sorry.
I mean, I try to use cheat codes, right? Like a DeMarvion Overshown, a
No,
Charlie
I mean,
Thomas.
everybody's playing under the same thing, but I mean, you can play like, I mean, hell, I can play Salopek from Miami, Ohio at freaking corner.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit, he's a freaking box safety.
He's a box
I
safety.
mean, he's borderline a linebacker. He's not even a freaking defensive back for the most part. But, anyway, that's kind of what I look at when I do it. So, next question again from Sal. Sal's just full of questions, man. You gotta like that. Good job, Sal. What is your thought process or strategy when looking for the future and the next guy up in a campus to Canton league?
I mean, I would say for me, I mean, I generally speaking, I don't roster a ton of defensive guys just because I feel like there's so many available on the waiver wires in a lot of leagues. And so I'm not rostering a ton of defensive players. But when I'm looking for a future or the next guy up kind of thing, I'm really more looking at like from an NFL perspective. I'm not rostering a guy because I think he's going to be the next great college producer. I mean, I want him to be that, but I'm rostering guys I think that can be both, and a decent, at least a decent college producer, and hopefully someone with high NFL potential. I don't know about you, Choppy, but I don't really look at next guy up kind of stuff on the defensive side really. Till towards the end of the year, maybe, or even in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, I do to some extent. I think it depends on it. I mean, the thing about college football, even on the defensive side of the ball, it's still it's very system based, right? And you want guys that are going to look into it. I mean, one guy that, for example, at the end of the year last year that I want to make sure I had everywhere was Easton Gibbs. I knew Muma was going, and I had a pretty good idea. I mean, I guess he could have stayed for another year, but I felt like he was going to be going, and I felt like he would be a really good producer next year. And so I don't think you want to go crazy like over targeting that and stuff, but I think that there is some thought process about looking at who's doing really well and what their status is for the NFL the next year, and can you get that guy on the cheap right now?
Right.
I think another thing that's worth looking at as you get later into your year are, let's be honest, in a lot of our campus to Canton leagues, a lot of 4-star defensive players kind of go under the radar when you're adding them before their freshman year. And are there guys you could come back through and add now?
Yeah.
And if you can get them for free now, or do you need to have them on your radar? Maybe you can get them as a cheap draft pick or auction win or whatever you're doing in your leagues to do that. A guy I kind of think of, along those lines, maybe like a Danny Stutzman, right? I think he was a 4-star recruit, 3 or 4, had some decent success toward the ends of his freshman year, but you could have got him, and you probably could still get him pretty cheap. I mean, he's doing okay now, but you could have probably had him for free, or maybe now he'd cost you a little bit if you wanted to get him. So I just I think the one thing about like the next guy up is that, I mean, the defensive side, and it depends on your league settings too, but for the most part, I mean, there's so much out there on the college side that you can always find producers and things like that if you wanted to spend some time looking and seeing on there. But if you're looking for NFL guys as far as the next guy up, I mean, you always want to stick to your big programs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is there, Alabama's and Georgia and Ohio State linemen and Clemson linemen.
Yeah. Well, and you do that just to, make sure, because that's, I don't say they're sure bets, but they're better bets and stuff. But I think if you're just looking for like, man, I'm losing Mitchell from UConn this year. I need a huge tackler. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not looking at who's Mitchell's backup or anything because
not necessarily unless there's been a
unless
reason
they're producing already.
unless there's been a reason you've seen something, right? So,
Right.
Kind of going back to my Gibbs things, Gibbs played pretty well last year, so
Right.
so you could kind of maybe think there's going to be an uptake in it. So, I don't know. Yes, I don't know. I guess a lot of like who's playing now, you're kind of looking. I guess you're in the now. If you're looking for future, I kind of tend to you. I'd kind of look more for guys I think would, maybe have some NFL potential. I'm probably not going and pulling like Miami, Ohio's backup linebacker right now just to see if they're worth anything, but I would definitely, look and see, if, or
because like the Clemsons and the Alabamas and the Georgias, they get all these high recruits, and sometimes
they don't
guys get impatient with them, right? They
well
don't
that yeah.
they sit for 2 years or so, and
Yeah,
so
I mean,
sometimes you can find those kind of guys on the waivers.
is the guy sitting behind Tutu right now? Is he available? Right.
Right.
I don't know. And so, that goes across the thing. So I think you just, you kind of play it by year. And when you go into your next offseason, you always have to realize too, that guys for Ohio State and Alabama and those, they're always going to have more value if they're going to quote unquote, they're going to be the starter guy. And, you want to, kind of take that into account too, when you're looking at who you're going to acquire. So
is there, we talked about Alabama, and Alabama's good for everything, right? I'd say they're probably better for linebackers and defensive backs, maybe more so than linemen, but they have produced linemen. Georgia's the same thing. I think all three, they produce all three. I think Clemson's probably more known for their defensive linemen, although they have produced others.
Well, but they got like, Trenton Simpson and, some other
Isaiah
things.
Simmons.
And so.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying I'm trying to think like of what they're more known for. Like Ohio State is linemen, right? And maybe defensive backs in Ohio State. They're not really known for linebackers.
No, but I think you also have to look at
Penn State's known for what, Penn State's another good one too, right?
Yeah.
Edge rushers, linebackers, DBs. Any others you can think of?
Well, you also want to look at like, not maybe so much position, but just like, they keep putting guys in the NFL, like Utah, right? It's not really
Utah's another good one.
High profile, but I mean they seem to keep putting guys in the NFL now for whatever reason. And Oregon keeps putting guys in the NFL. And I would think that if they're a program that's continually ranked in, let's say, the top 40, I mean, chances are they're putting some kids in the NFL, and if you feel like they have one, you kind of want to look at like who that next man up is a little bit, and see if you can get them for cheap. But sometimes it's not even there, especially now it's a transfer portal and stuff like that makes it a whole different ball game as far as figuring that crap out. So,
and I feel like sometimes, like especially when be in the beginning of the year when everyone has like freshman fever, right? I'll use Texas A&M as an example. They signed that great class of linemen this past year. Well, maybe you could get Shamar Turner a little bit cheaper, right? Yeah. Because everyone just assumes that they're more excited about the freshman than they are about last year's guy. So I think that's an opportunity too, where you can look at guys that are coming into their second year, and maybe you might get them a little cheaper because everyone's focused on the hot new shiny toy, the freshman. So
yeah, for sure.
I mean, I feel like you could have got Shamar Turner's played well this year. I think you could have got him, fairly cheap back when, they had Overton and Dunlow did.
Yeah, all of them. Well, I think it's kind of like
Stewart and all those guys, right?
It's like rookies coming to the NFL, right? Everybody just assumes that they're gonna make an impact and start right away, but there's a transition there for and honestly, the transition from high school to big time college football might be more difficult than the transition from the college football to the NFL.
Especially on the defensive side, right? I feel like skill positions, you see that instant impact, but I feel like you don't see a huge impact on the defensive side. Usually it's after their first year.
Yeah, well, and a lot of these kids too go to a school where you have to wait a year too. I mean,
right.
but
it's good for them, right? I mean, I think it's good for their development and getting used to college, getting their body right.
That and a lot of college coaches are loyal to those kids that have been there for a couple of years and not transferred or left early for the draft or whatever, right? This incoming freshman might be more gifted athletically, but you know what, man, this guy here, I mean, he's been here for 4 years. He hasn't left me, and I just love the kid, so I'm going to play him. And 5-star he'll get some reps, but he can wait a year to be the guy, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. So, anything else you got to add or wrap up or?
Nothing I have. I would just remind everyone to please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube now, please subscribe, like, and comment on the videos. That's always appreciated. And if you have questions, hit us up. You can find me at justice_2318. Hollywood is at Hollywood Titan. Brock is at choppin._KC. Also at the Devy IDP Grind Twitter. You can DM us on Twitter. You can also DM me on Discord. And if you have questions, get a hold of any of us, any one of us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And we're always looking for input on the show. If there's things you'd like to see or things you don't like, whatever, let us know. Right? That's how we can improve, is through your feedback. So thanks for your support, and that's it, I guess. Catch everybody next week. I won't be here next week. Hopefully Hollywood will be back, and Brock will be back. I'll be out of town next week. So
yeah, we'll be I should be around next week. So me and Hollywood will do a show. That's like the F team. So that'll be non-watchable or listening to or anything like that. So anyway, like everything he said, do all that stuff. I wasn't really listening. So thanks, y'all.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, do that. So peace.